1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Inspired by nostalgia, Barry Grant's exciting new 3-deuce induction system, the SixShooter, is a product of a collaboration between three of his companies: Demon Carburation, Triple D Induction, and Rush Performance. Designed and manufactured at Grant's factory in Georgia, the SixShooter induction package revives the 3-deuce concept that was so fashionable with the muscle car enthusiasts of the late 60s and early 70s. This simple how-to video will take you step by step in a simple layman's terms to a simple afternoon's worth of time to remove your old manifold and install the exciting Barry Grant SixShooter. Hi, my name is Chris McDonald and I'm your host for Barry Grant's how-to video segment. I will show you how to install the awesome SixShooter system on your small block Chevrolet. Step by step, I'll show you just how easy it is to install one of these spectacular systems on your small block Chevrolet in one simple afternoon. Let's get started. Everything is included in the system. All you need is a small block Chevy equipped with a small body distributor along with some simple shop tools and a free afternoon, and you'll be pounding the drag strip. As you can see, we have prepped the manifold for removal by taking off the carburetor, coil, distributor, and intake hose. We also drained the coolant and plugged up the fuel line and oil pressure line. Now, we're ready to remove the intake bolts. I'll take off the outer bolts as Danny works on the inner bolts so we can pop off the old and tired manifold. It's always a good idea to clean off the top of the old manifold to get all the trash and dirt particles off the top of the engine. So when we pop off the manifold, nothing will fall into the engine. It's also a good idea to tape off the manifold and distributor openings so nothing can fall inside the lifter valley. To pop off the old manifold, you'll need a large screwdriver and small hammer to gently knock the corner of the manifold loose, then pry it off. We laid some clean shop rags in the lifter valley to keep this clean so that nothing can fall inside the engine. You can use a razor blade or a paint scraper to help you remove the old manifold gasket. The surface has to be pure bare metal for the new gasket to seal properly. You can use any kind of cleaning solvent to get a smooth and clean surface once you have scraped off the old manifold gasket. You need to put a thin coating of RTV sealant around the water intake passages on both sides of the head. It serves two purposes. One, to seal the coolant passages, and two, to hold the intake manifold gasket in place while you put the manifold on. Now it's time for the intake gaskets, which are directional, so you can't put them on backwards. Next, you put the front and rear rubber gaskets on top of the lifter valley. It's a good idea to let them sit a few minutes so they don't wiggle free when you put on the intake manifold. You also remember to put a dab of RTV sealant on the ends of the rubber front and rear gasket where they meet the intake manifold to help ensure the manifold is airtight when it's tightened down. You should also clear away any excess RTV sealant on the inside of the intake manifold gasket. You don't want any rubber pieces falling off inside the lifter valley. You know, this is a really nice piece right here. Good looking, well machined. And not only is it good looking, but it's going to perform. And in fact, this particular manifold put down 13 more horsepower than a Torker manifold with a 650 carburetor.
Wow.
So I think it's going to make some more performance on this car from what we had. We're ready to put it down in place now. Our gaskets are in place. Silicone is set up just a bit. We're going to gently lay it down in place. And that looks like that. Let's get our bolts and start them in finger tight. Okay, Danny, we've got our new bolts here from Barry Grant that came with our intake manifold.
Aluminum will expand and contract as it gets hot, right?
That's correct.
So usually it's a good practice that after you run about 50-60 miles and get plenty of heat in the motor and the intake, to retorque your intake bolts in the same torque pattern.
We've gone around our manifold to get it torqued down in place according to our sequence. We've moved 5 pounds of torque each time, and we're finally down to the last bolt. And at a 35-pound torque setting, we're going to finish the last part off, and that's right where we need to be. That part's sealed. We're ready to move on to the next part.